Man City broke Chelsea's streak of WSL titles this year, but do the Big Four dominate every year?
Keep watching to find out.
Welcome to the Corridor of Uncertainty, a podcast at the intersection of maths and sport. I'm Rich.
And I'm Jess.
And we're both mathematicians at the University of York who spend a lot of time talking about sport, so we thought we'd make a podcast. What are we going to talk about today then, Jess?
Well, we've just concluded the WSL season, and just remind me, who won that again?
London City Lionesses? No?
Not this year.
Maybe next year.
But maybe next year. We'll get to that later, I think. Basically, I've just been trying to, as I said in a previous episode, trying to find a way to gloat about Man City winning. And
yes.
but actually, no, it's not. In the previous episode, I did promise a follow-up episode where we'd look at other things. So here it is.
Not other teams, though. Still just Man City.
I'm still focusing. Well, no, actually, I'm going to start the story talking about Chelsea.
Right.
Because what we're focusing on is what we call competitive balance. So we'll see. It's that's what economists are calling like the excitement, I suppose, of a league. We'll get to it later. As I say, if you want to see a long discussion and Rich's views on competitive balance, watch the previous video. But yeah, so as I say, I'm going to take you back in time to see, don't let me look as if I'm, totally impartial here, because I'm going to focus on a season where Man City did not do well, which is the previous season, 24-25.
You do have a lot of choice in those, but no. I think, Man City are now setting up for a Chelsea-like run of dominance, so we'll see. But
we shall see. 24-25 season, Chelsea, they broke tons of records. They went invincible, so they were undefeated. It was their sixth successive league title. So they won 6 in a row. And that really is the point of this competitive balance thing. It's how many, at the end of the season, how many teams could possibly win it? How has it been shared out? So it looked like they'd won it for the 6th time in a row. They were the first team to record an invincible season of in a 22-game WSL campaign, because the league's been expanding, as we'll see in a moment. So no one had done it when there's been 12 teams.
Right.
It's the fourth time a team has gone a full season without suffering a defeat. So the 4th invincible season. I say full season because there were 2. There was the spring thing. We'll get to that later. There was a COVID season that was shortened. But the full seasons, Arsenal did it in 2012. Mm-hmm. They played 14 games. Man City in 2016, when there were 16, so you can work out how many teams there were in the league. And Chelsea themselves, so they're the only team to do it twice. They did it in 17-18, when there was 18 games.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, last season, as I say, season to forget for the Man City fan, it was the first time in 5 seasons when the title race was not decided on the final day. I mean,
right, that's interesting.
Was it decided on the final day this season? I've made this sort of points race plot here that just shows you the number of games played. This is calendar time. And so you can see, number 1, Chelsea are never flatlining. They're always going up because they're drawing or they're winning, so they're getting 3 points or 1 point. And you can see that, they're just way ahead of the chasing pack. There's clear water between them. And then there's clear water between the next 3 and everybody else.
But that speaks well to the competitive balance the rest of the years, in that being decided on the final day means that it is competitive.
Does it, Rich?
Oh, well, we will find out. We'll find out.
Okay, so as I say, we've looked at competitive balance already to exactly answer this question. Yeah. And in that previous episode, we looked at a particular measure, and I did tease that there was maybe a different, more statistically rigorous method, as the authors would say, which, as I say, I absolutely love this method, so I've been really excited to tell you about it. I think it's really cool. So we talked about this last time. There's lots of measures of competitive balance out there in the sports analytics literature. Most of them look at trying to, like we say, quantify these sort of intuitive measures of competitive balance. So like we said, you could look at the number of different teams winning the trophy, like we've just been doing. You could look at the league table at the end, how well are these things spread out? And again, there's lots of ways of doing that, measuring a spread. So one of the most common, and we talked about this last time, was this Herfindahl-Hirschman index of competitive balance. It's based on something from the economics literature that was about
it considers like points as a market and then which clubs have most points as being them having a large share of the market.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea is it's a measure of, like we say, how equally shared they are. So if everybody in the league got the exact same number of points, that's like in competitive balance land. That's the ideal scenario. I mean, I know it's not your ideal
don't
scenario.
know who's going to win the end of the season if everybody has the same number of points.
And it's like you were saying, this is your competitive coin flipping scenario where everyone has have exactly the same. Using this HHICB, that would give you a value of 1 if they're all equally shared. Then the opposite, so what they would say is the least competitively balanced, is if the team at the top wins every game.
Yeah.
In our case, they play a round-robin format, so they play twice. So then the team in second wins every game except the 2 they play against the top team, and so on and so forth until the team at the bottom won 0.
Yeah.
So you just have like steps of 6 going down.
Yeah. So that's the least competitively balanced.
That's the least competitively balanced. But I think you would talk about that being quite efficient because that would say that you have literally got 12 teams that are ranked in exactly this order, and that's what you've observed.
Yeah, you couldn't disagree with that ranking of teams that is, shown up in the results.
But would it be exciting to watch? Because after a while, you would know, okay, Chelsea beat everybody, Man City beat everyone but Chelsea, and so on. So that's the argument. We're between these two spaces. The end, like we say,
you talked about the Chelsea invincible season.
Yeah.
The 3 games they drew was that like two draws against second place and 1 against third, because that would be.
We might see in a moment. Might be able to answer that question for you. But yeah, so we will be able to answer that question for you. I told you were going to like this. I feel like I'm going to convert it to competitive balance. You're going to like this measure I'm going to show you today. But as I say, so in some ways, I think this is your argument that version that I've said is the least competitively balanced is actually an efficient league. So not necessarily a bad thing, but we can understand as a sports fan, like, are you going to turn up and watch if you know you're the worst team in the league and you know they're going to lose to everybody? It's not exciting.
Yeah, in that perfectly efficient league, the bottom team loses every game. So yeah, not be a fun season.
Yeah, so we looked at this. So like we say, in this world, 100 is the perfect share. Everyone's got equal points. And then you can, depending on the number of teams, you can work out what that league would look like, where top's winning everything and bottom's losing everything. And so it gives you a max. So for like the Premier League, the max is about 1.36. And we can see here, this is from the paper that I'm going to reference today that this Cool Method's taken from. They have a look at a couple of measures of competitive balance. The HHICB is on the left. So like we see, they're looking at this from like the 70s up till about 2020. And this value is going up, which means it's getting less competitive. Again, we talked about this. So that's the Premier League, but we want to focus on the WSL today. Okay. Right. So I promised you a new measure that you're going to love. And so I'm going to do 2 versions of this. I'm going to give you the overview, which is all you need to know. Yeah. And then, like we did in our World Cup prediction episode, I'm going to give myself a time limit to go into the maths bit. Okay. But as I say, the viewer at home, I'm talking to Mrs. Hargreaves, my mum, loyal fan. Don't worry about the maths bit. If you get this first, quick explainer, you've got what you need. And you'll see it's quite intuitive.
Well, to reference another episode, like the XG explanation.
Yeah, it is like that, but not vague. We can literally point people to the reference and they can go away and read all the mathematical detail. Yeah. So basically, Bassini et al. 2023 develop what's called a statistical network model. And it's based on an extension of a stochastic block model. I'm going to stick with that second phrase that they've used. Stochastic just means statistics, random, right?
It's just randomised.
Yeah, which is fine. That's what we understand football to be, right? That's why bookies exist, right? Block model is perfect. What we want to do is take the league and put these teams into blocks, okay? That's all it's going to do. Yeah. So you could imagine, like we've just said, looking at the league table and thinking, where could I cut it? Where are the packs? We did look at that points race and go, there's Chelsea on their own, then there's a group, then there's another group, right? It's just
so it's like saying, there's a big 4, and then there's a middle bunch, and then there's the relegation threatened teams. That would be 3 blocks.
Yeah. So that's all that this is doing. It's just trying to work out what the blocks are. So there's some nice, lovely, fancy maths that, like I say, I'll give you a sneak peek of in a moment, but go away and read the detail. But that's essentially what it's doing. It's just an algorithm. It's just a way of cutting the league table.
Okay.
And the idea is that if you're in a block with some other teams, then essentially you're totally at the same level.
Right.
So if you're playing against each other, it's a flip of a coin. It's totally random whether you win, lose, or draw because you're coming from the same statistical distribution, to use the proper terminology. But does that make sense? You're in a block and it's just like, yeah, you're completely equal.
Yep.
And then if two teams play each other and they're from different blocks, well then, like we say, it's just whichever block you belong to, you get that sort of strength level. And so if you're from the good block, you're more likely to win. It's still random, but you're more likely to win.
Okay.
So that's all it's doing. It's just partitioning them into blocks where we can say, these teams are interchangeable. They're exactly the same strength.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they play each other, totally random. When they play someone from another block, you would expect to see good block dominating.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah? Right. There you go. That's all you need to know, and I'll show you.
It's quite intuitive
it is really intuitive. I love this, right? Yeah. And so we'll come back to this. We'll just have a few moments where we think about some maths, and then we'll just come back to the intuition at the end, okay?
Okay.
Here we go then. Let's think about some maths. So, as we've said it already, right? We've talked about the idea being that if you're in a block, you've got the same statistical distribution, okay, if we're trying to predict them. So again, if we go back to our World Cup prediction episode, when James Reed was talking about Dixon-Cole's model, it's basically saying, I wouldn't need different parameters for these two teams. They could have the same ones.
Yeah.
Okay, it's that sort of idea. How do we get there then? So what they actually look at, okay, this is where the phrase I used at the start wasn't stochastic block model. It was about, it had the word networking. So what it does is it looks at this thing here, the results matrix. So I've just pinched this off Wikipedia.
Yep, I just recognise exactly that
format. They've kindly colour-coded it for us very nicely. So what you've got is, this is just in alphabetical order. So you've got Arsenal there. And then the away teams are going along the top. So this is so here we go. In fact, let's focus on Chelsea because you asked this question. So this is for that invincible season for Chelsea. So if you read across, you can see all their away all the teams when they play them away. Obviously on the diagonal they don't play themselves, but they're playing everybody else. So you can see that once they drew at home to West Ham. 2-2.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's your answer. And then to get what happened to Chelsea when they were the away team, you look sort of down the Chelsea column, and now you want to see reds because that means that
it's an away win.
It's an away win. Yeah. And you can see they're all red except 2 when they drew with Brighton away and Leicester away. So
right,
it's absolutely not that they were drawing against those big teams.
Yeah.
So what they do is they take this and then they sort of forget those score lines and just look at the colours.
Right.
And what they imagine is that this is what we would call a network or a directed graph in maths land. I told you it was going to get maths intense, right?
Yeah.
And so basically imagine a network. Each, what we call node, so each blob is a team. And they've got 2 connectors to every other team when they play at home and away. And you've got an observation about what happened. You know if it's, as I say, we're just talking about the outcome. So if it was a win, a draw, or an away win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so basically that's what they do. They just want to, there's actual methods out there to try and take one of these networks and find these blocks, find these clusters. Okay?
Right.
And the example is that if you had like a social network on, on social media, and you might just have a binary connector between 2 people if they're friends or not. Well, it would be what we call sparse. There'd be lots of zeros because lots of people aren't friends with each other.
Yep.
And so there's maths in place that can deal with those sorts of things, find blocks of people, find these social networks. So what these authors very cleverly thought was, well, you know what? One of these results matrices is perfect because you have 2. They always play each other. You've got 2 of these connections. You know what happened. So you can use all the maths that you'd use to find your social media networks on a football matrix. But as I say, the goal is just, again, pun intended, the goal is just to find these blocks. Find the blocks where the teams are very similar in strength. Okay?
Yep.
Happy?
Yep.
That's it. That's the end of the maths. Okay. So we end up with, in fact, no, it's not. I'm going to drop some things in. So we're using a Bayesian stochastic block model. So that's, again, that'll mean something to some people and not to others, but it basically just talks about how you're going to find these probabilities.
Yeah, it means you're putting in a probability, testing it, modifying it, seeing what it comes out at, and maybe doing that process over and over to find the best.
and
fit.
Hence, you're going to do MCMC. So
Markov chain Monte Carlo.
Thanks, Rich. So to like we say, to find these probabilities. But as I say,
if you want to define that means it's a process that has no memory.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not dwell.
So that's just like we say, that's just the particular toolkit that they were using to find these blocks. That's all we need to know. Okay. Happy that we've gone into a little taster of the maths. If this interests you, do go away and read the paper. We'll definitely reference it because it's a beautiful paper. With, as I say, you're going to love this stuff, Rich. But yeah, for us today, I think let's just remember what we said before. We're going to take the results matrix and we're going to find blocks of teams. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm using that Invincible Chelsea season because I think it's really nice to illustrate these points. So we can see the points race. We can see the league table. So Chelsea are there on 60 points. Second place Arsenal, 48. So a big jump. Then we've got Man U on 44, Man City on 43, and then woof, big jump down to 28, as I say, as we can see in the picture.
Yeah, you can kind of spot them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we move on, I'm just going to ask you, just at this point, where would you draw the blocks? Just if I gave you a ruler, where would you be putting the blocks in this table?
So, I mean, there's...
And I should say, you can have just one block if you think... Yeah?
So if I was to... I'm thinking of it kind of like a hierarchical clustering as well, where you think you can say there's probably there's two teams, top and bottom, are off on their own little islands on their own, and then maybe two more blocks in the middle. So, 2 to 4. So
2 to 4.
Arsenal, Man U, City are in one block, and then below are all maybe continuous. 5 to 11. It's tricky. So maybe 4 blocks, but maybe 2 blocks.
Okay, but you're really not in the one block world this year.
No,
right.
because it's
so
10. It's a long way between top and bottom.
So if you, as I say, do go away and read this paper, it's beautiful. They do it for the Premier League, like I said, for years, from the 70s up till the 2020. And they're sort of looking at, like we've seen, is this competitive balance changing through time? And their argument is, if the algorithm throws back one block, that means it's really exciting, competitive. Anyone can beat anybody on the day. They're all the same. The more blocks you have, the worse it is for competitive balance. And you can really, as I say, it's a beautiful paper. You can really go into the detail of like how many teams are in. If there is a top block, how many teams are in it? What's the probability of having one block? All this stuff. It's really, really cool. I should say, and again, if there's an author of that paper out there or somebody who's read it really well, do correct me. But I didn't want to tell you this before I asked your intuition, right? But my understanding of the algorithm is it kind of starts it's a one block world, and then at the top, so it's starting at the top and then cutting.
And then seeing like what's the benefit with a split each time, and is this too many? 12 blocks is too many. 1 block is too few.
Yeah.
What's the best in between? Yeah,
and it starts with one block, and it's like throwing people out of blocks and creating new blocks and so on, like you say. So you get the MCMC algorithm is kind of doing this iteratively until it reaches what it feels is the nice answer. So it's actually quite unlikely that you'd get, even though Crystal Palace are kind of as far away from Tottenham as Chelsea are from Arsenal, it's unlikely to see a one block at the bottom.
Yeah.
Because of just the way the algorithm works, I believe.
Right.
But yeah, right, okay. Let's have a look then at our results matrix now. So on Wikipedia, it's ordered alphabetically.
Yeah.
I've now just taken that and plotted it. It's the same thing off Wikipedia. We've got rid of the score lines. We're just looking at whether it's a win, draw, or away win.
So now it's ordered by
But
league
now it's
position.
ordered by league position. Yeah. So again, I'm going to ask you the same question. Now knowing a bit more about the algorithm and also looking at this, how many blocks, and can you have a guess at where they would go?
So, now I think it's trickier now. I mean, it looks... I'm not so sure now. I wouldn't be confident in... I'd still think, from the look of the points table and the way you've seen the results go, 4 blocks kind of feels natural. Mm-hmm. But also, 2 could also work.
Okay, yeah. So let's try and go for 2 because I think that's easier. If I'm doing 2, I'm just drawing one line. And here you draw it across and then you draw it down. So we thought there was Chelsea off at the top and then 3 more teams. Yep. So let's just think about if we drew that line across at 4.
Yeah.
So you draw it across under Man City and then you draw it down after Man City. And can you see that the sort of top left would be that when the top four are playing each other.
It's that even block, yeah.
All different colours.
Yeah.
Similarly, the rest of them, again, lots of different colours. But if you look at the sort of bottom left block, where it's those top four teams being the away teams, we'd expect to see lots of red, which you kind of do. And then opposite, when the top four are the home team, blue in the top right. So, has that given you a hint about where we think it's going to draw the lines?
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the answer. That's what it comes up with.
So I think your first intuition when you look at the league table is like, here are the points, and we split based on the points. But the points matter against who you get the points.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like going back to, the Dixon-Coles model, where, when you fit that, you don't get as much benefit for scoring against a weak team as you do against a strong team. It's the same sort of thing here, where who you get the points against will affect what cluster you're in. So that's why.
It really does.
Yeah,
and
it's interesting.
Actually, so what you can do, so I had to put a bit of effort in to put this into the order of the league table, because an easier way to order this table is by probability of being in the top block. And a lot of the time, that will agree with the league table, because Chelsea will have had the highest probability of being in the top block. But you do see around that borderline, not quite in the... I've got it for this year, I think. Is it right? There we go. That's it in order of probability of being in the top block, which it's different, right?
Yeah.
In the middle...
You see a slightly clearer pattern, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see why it was that if you look at who Brighton say we're getting their draws against, it's shuffled around those teams in the middle. We've still got, like we say, the bottom teams are still at the bottom. But I found that really interesting.
Yeah, and then West Ham, who got the draw against Chelsea as well.
They're getting rewarded for that, which I think is really, really cool. I told you were going to love this.
No, I do.
But for now, for the rest of this, we're going to order it by league table, because I just think that's intuitively for us, we can see kind of
that's the thing that actually mattered at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. So, got a sense of what this algorithm's doing. Like I said, I do think it's nice and intuitive. So you can all say that you've been doing Bayesian SBM with MCMC, and you totally get what's cracking off here. Yeah. It's just drawing lines where...
I'm adding that to my CV right now.
Yeah, I think if like I say, if I'd given you the rule, you'd have you've sort of drawn it there, and it does make sense. So viewers will love this this plot that we had before of that HHICB. So remember, high values are bad. It means it's not well balanced, and low values are good. It means it is well balanced. So on here we've got the who won, what the HHICB value was, and then we've put in dotted lines, like we say, that's the max and min value, so you can kind of see on what ballpark we're in. So we saw this last time, but now I've added a background that's the number of blocks that the algorithm found. And you can see the sort of lighter grey means it's 2 blocks, a darker grey means it's 1 block, and the white means it was those 2 years where it was COVID or the spring shortened season, so we couldn't do this particular algorithm, because like we say, you needed a home and you needed 2 games to do this algorithm. And so what do we see? Well, there were 4 years when there's 1 block. Yeah. They're all in the WSL era. And they correspond to the lowest values of HHICB, which I think is really nice.
That matches up quite well then,
we can take a look at the max and min values of that. Yeah. So as in the max HHICB value is that Arsenal game, Arsenal year in 2001.
So that's in the old division. Yep.
This is the max, so it's the least competitively balanced. Yeah. And if you look at the league table, I think it is kind of following that, what we said about how you're sort of starting off and then you've got gaps of 6. Like we said, that's what the max is. Yeah. And it does look like that.
And this is 1 block in this.
And that, no, that would give you, that's the max HI, so this is 2 blocks.
2 blocks.
Yeah.
2 blocks. Okay.
I can show you what it is. There it is.
Okay.
So again, it's a block of a top 4. Yeah. And look at that. I mean, I think... Now, this is like when I was saying to you what these things should look like. This is a picture that you would throw up. You've got like in the top left and the top right, kind of a mix of the red and the yellow and the blue. And then in your 2 boxes where you've got strong teams playing weaker teams, it's completely red with some yellows. Yeah. And then strong teams playing weaker teams at home, it's completely blue with 2 yellows. So it's like that is completely showing you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This, like, being in this block means you're going to beat the other block.
Yeah.
Similarly, we can look at the minimum value of this HHICB. That's Liverpool in the WSL era, 2014. And we've only got 8 teams. And this is, again, it is corresponding to a 1 block. So it doesn't say that there's anywhere to cut it. And again, if you look at it, it does look like one of those squares that we said, this kind of random mix of
and it
red,
kind of
yellow,
matches
and
with the points as well there, which would be the HHICB measure of it.
So you see, is that more that this concept that you're going for an equal share and you've got like 26, 26, 25, 21, 19, 18, 16, 4.
Certainly, going to be a lot of teams, with a shout till right near the end of the season.
That really does look very equal share of points, what you would expect. So I think that there's this really nice symmetry between the two measures, which I think is really, I love it when stuff like this happens, that there's kind of this agreement between the two methods. Mm-hmm. Again, I was just having so much fun with this. Obviously, like I've produced for every single one of these, I've produced one of those plots and stuff. Yeah. But I just thought I'd take. I've been good. I've been good so far. I just took the highest and the lowest, and then I thought, let's take the last 3 years actually. So in the past 3 seasons, so we've already talked about Man City won it this season.
Yeah,
with 2.
You've talked about that a fair bit.
With some games to spare. The season before was the invincible one, Chelsea. They won it with 2 games to spare.
Yeah.
The season before that, it's painful for me to talk about. I have spoken about this before. Chelsea won it on goal difference. So it did go down to the final day. I told you I was there. I was at Aston Villa. Booking my ticket when Chelsea lost. I was thinking, this is our year. And then...
Yeah, so on goal difference is as close as you can get, because obviously there's sometimes it's like still possible on the final day, but it's like one team needs to win. One team only needs to draw. The other one needs to like win by 10 goals sort of stuff. And that's not really, the final day sort of stuff. That was incredibly close down to the final day. What was the goal difference? I seem to remember it was actually quite big, wasn't it, between the two?
Oh yeah, I should have put that on.
Yeah, I seem to remember they were quite a long way ahead because Chelsea had run up the score a few times.
It was, like I say, it was all going so well, and then they beat Bristol like 8-0. Yeah. And just corrected it for them. So, yep. Anyway, so here we go. We've got the league tables for the past 3 seasons. We've got the points races for the past 3 seasons. And we can see that invincible one in the middle, like we said, with the packs. But we sort of know, because you've seen that it's going to be 2 blocks.
Yeah.
And you've seen the HHICB scores. So if we just remind ourselves, the first one has got the highest one. So the first's the worst, second's the best, and third's in the middle. Yeah. Right?
I was going to say a different rhyme there, but
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the HHICB. So, first the worst, second the best.
Interesting.
Not what we would have thought, the invincible season.
No.
The best. And do you know why it is? It's because we're really focusing on like the top 2. But remember, the HHICB is the spread of points. When I now say that to you, look at the middle, actually, we've got that big drop. But then we do see these similar teams, they're all in the 20s. Most of the teams are in the 20s. Whereas, again, if you look at the 2 on the left and the right, it is that more like, we say, stepping down in terms of you've had 2 losses against the team above yourself.
It's a limitation of the HHICB in some ways, in that most people's understanding, I suppose, of a competitive league would be anybody can win the title, whereas actually it's going to be more effectively would be each game in itself is competitive. It's probably going to be better measured by the HHRCB.
And I'm going to say, so I'm going to sort of agree with you a little bit, Rich, right?
Finally.
And on this one. And when they're talking about cutting it, right, cutting the league table, we do. We relegate teams.
Yeah.
So we're saying you're not of this standard. You need to go down. And when we've looked at some of these tables, there is somebody right at the bottom, like we said, 15-6, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, necessarily think that there are things going on at the top and the bottom. And like you said, I think that's a limitation of the HHICB because it's just looking at a share. But actually, as a fan, there's things going on at the top, there's things going on in the bottom, and like you say, we sort of care about different things. Anyway, let's have a look. How did the algorithm go with these? So we know that they were all 2.
Yeah.
Actually, again, this is would we expect this? Remember, first was the worst in terms of the HHICB, but it's actually got a bigger block, top block. There's a top 5 that year.
Yeah.
And again, like we say, we've seen the one in the middle.
Having a larger block at the top would kind of probably fit with most people's definition of a competitive league then, in that it's going to be, more teams are in that top block.
Yeah. So that you would argue, if they're all going into that top block, that any of those could potentially win.
Yeah. So it's like the HHICB gives you one number that you can track across multiple years, and it's because it's continuous, as in it can take any value between those ranges. People are going to like it because you can track it over the years and it changes. Obviously, the blocks are only going to give you a certain range of whole numbers. You're never going to get 2.5 blocks, but the size of the blocks is also something that's interesting too,
and
isn't it?
And that is what they do. So again, I really do recommend this paper. It's really nice. They're looking at the Premier League. So we focused on the WSL, but if you are interested in the Premier League, then look at them analysing it over. Like I say, it's like, 50 years?
Yeah.
And you see this kind of going from one block to going to 2, and you can look at, they have these nice plots where they're looking at the probability of one block.
Yeah.
Of it being a one block year. And so you can see a really nice kind of correlation between the probability of it being a one block year and something like the HHICB. They also track how many teams are in this top block, because again, that's an argument for excitement. And all sorts of other things, looking at how many times each team is in the top block. They do some really nice analysis, which I would have loved to have done here, but there's only so many hours in the day. So I've just left it at this. Okay. So that's pretty much it for today. Like I say, do go and have a look at the actual paper and look at how this goes for the Premier League. To summarise then, I think that what we saw from the HHICB stuff was that perhaps it was getting narrower over time. But when we've put these two things together, this other measure sort of broadly agreed with it. The lowest years were the one block years.
Yeah.
But then actually, when we looked at those past 3 seasons, there's like a subtle difference where it was saying that 3 years ago, when it was 1 on goal difference, was out of those 3 the worst in terms of competitive balance on the HHICB, but then had more teams in the top block, and it was done on goal difference, and we would have probably said was more exciting.
So the HHICB is saying that it's not rocketing away in terms of it. It's slightly increasing, isn't it? When you look at just the WSL years. When you look at the block membership, though, over those years, from what we've seen, it tends to be the big 4. There is a big 4 being established. So in terms of, the competitiveness of the league, maybe it's getting actually worse in some ways or not worse, but it's becoming the big 4 that are fighting for the title.
I've got that, Rich. I've got that. I actually did record how many teams there were in each block.
Right.
So, you can see it's this column here. So, like
so there are some years when there's a lot of teams in that big. Oh, sorry, that was in the old league.
Yeah. So the yellow is the WSL. So let's focus on that. You can see the 4 years where it's 8 because it was everybody was in it. But when it's not the 8, we get 3, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 4, 4.
So there's been an interloper sometimes into it. But generally, and I'm going to guess that 4 is the same 4. It's City, United, Arsenal, Chelsea.
Yep, and like I say, you can look. They do this in their paper. They look at who the top 4 are, and if it's the same one. So we can look at that. But it basically is. But as I say, so I think there is this there really is a strong 2-tier system that structure that we're seeing in the WSL, and we can think about why there will be reasons. Like I say, back in the day, this is because these would be actually semi-professional teams, or in some way had some kind of infrastructure advantage. Then it goes fully professional, but I'd argue that the teams that had been previously successful have got more money in the bank, more fans in the bank, and so now everyone's professional, but I can pay you more. Like we were talking about with Moneyball, right? We're a bigger team, we can pay you more. So I think that the tide is turning a little bit, and we did see that when we were looking at it and squinting, we sort of thought maybe actually the WSL is getting worse.
Yeah, but maybe so speaking of money in the bank, though, maybe the London City Lionesses.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They've come in as the disruptors.
Yeah.
So I really like them in so many ways. We'll talk about them in another episode as well, because they're deliberately not affiliated with a men's team. They're part of an ownership group where there's other women's teams in other countries like Lyon, who've obviously just done very well. And they are going in big spending. And I love it. I think it's brilliant for the league. But again, maybe it's going to go to a big six. And I think that's great. And like I say, I've got there's so many articles I could have picked that are London City Lionesses are signing this player, that player. That everyone else, but I've gone with the big name, which is actually perhaps getting a Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah,
and they've done so well. They were the promoted team this time, and they were like 5th.
Yep, they're up there.
Yeah. So they're brilliant, and I think it just shows that that common sense really. If you invest, you can do well. It's there to. So we will see if the London City Lionesses manage to join the top block of the WSL next season, and we'll see you on the Code of Uncertainty again soon.